Welcome to Medical Marijuana and Wellness. Today's topic is concentrates using medical marijuana. One of my guests is Isaac Klaus from Surterra. Isaac, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you for having me, Mark. My name is Isaac Klaus. I'm the Senior Vice President of Extraction and Refinement for Surterra Wellness. I've been with the company since its inception in 2019 when we merged as Parallel. And I work across the country, setting up extraction labs and making concentrates for everyday use across the United States.
Sure, and we're going to talk about concentrates and we're going to talk about some exciting new products. I do want to remind everybody that the key components of cannabis are cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids. And really, we're going to talk a lot about terpenes and flavonoids because the reason that you want to use concentrates really centers around them. But I want to have everybody understand there are different components to the cannabis plant. And really what's interesting is by those cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids working together, the secret to cannabis is the entourage effect. Those work together to enhance the medical efficacy of the product itself. And that's where terpenes enhance the medical efficacy of, for example, cannabis. So let's jump into concentrates themselves. Isaac, why would I ever use a concentrate?
Well, the number one reason that we make concentrates is for the ease of use. Being easy to use may seem a little ridiculous because people have seen the dab rigs where you have to get out a torch and a glass bong looking piece of equipment and then heat it up, use a scraper to put concentrates on, but that's not how most concentrates are used. Most of the business that I do, we make all sorts of concentrates, but our number one selling product is our vapes. So 510 carts is the cart that we use to put on a battery where you can actually easily and discreetly use cannabis concentrates on the go or wherever you happen to be at the time.
I think it's not only easier to use, but it's also cleaner to use in many ways.
Very much so cleaner. You don't have the combustion of the plant material itself. And what that actually does is keeps you away from breathing substances that you are not intending to ingest.
Right. Well, one of the things that really comes into play, I know in my business, a lot of people say, well, I'll just smoke a joint and I don't need to worry about the different products that are there. But in reality, that flame, when you light that joint, it burns off a lot of the cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids.
That's correct. Combustion is a set temperature. A flame is a set temperature. And the ideal way to use concentrates is to be able to put it on a vaporizer where you can actually control the temperature to an exact degree.
Right. And that really brings out, when you do that, it really allows you to bring out a lot of the terpenes and the flavonoids, which is the medical efficacy of cannabis.
And on top of that, it gives you a more pleasant flavor overall.
Yeah, it tastes a lot better. Now, I think one of the other questions is there are certain product solvents that are used. A lot of those get burnt away in the manufacturing process.
For the most part, the concentrates that we are creating nowadays are using hydrocarboned ethanol or CO2. And people have the idea that those could be harmful to them. But in our manufacturing process, we do use a lot of vacuum ovens and slight heat to remove all of our solvents that are in there. For the most part, our concentrates in Florida are below 50 ppm that Surterra Wellness is releasing. Our distillates and our CO2 concentrates have 0 ppm of any residual solvent.
Yeah, so I'd say they're pretty close to being clean, if not clean themselves as products.
It's actually cleaner than to smoke a joint where you're using a cigarette lighter that's butane. It's going to be cleaner than that.
I think that's an excellent point. Now, a lot of folks don't understand that when the plant is actually growing, it starts out as CBG and then it morphs into THCA, CBDA, and TCBCA. This is an important process.
It's a very important process, and it's interesting to think about because a lot of people don't recognize that a THCA, if they were to ingest that, would not actually give them the effects, the psychoactive effects that they're looking for in a Delta-9 THC. And I like that you are breaking that down. Addition to that, you can also see that THCA can break down to CBN, and a lot of our patients are new to the cannabis realm, and knowing how these products break down and the age of the products being relevant in the effects that they get is very important. CBN comes from THC, but it gives you a totally different effect. It can actually give you a sedative effect. So it's important to know that. And on the flip side, CBG, if you do pick your cannabis early, your plants will have, instead of THCA, you'll have CBG, and that gives you an energizing effect. So the very important aspects to how you're growing and maintaining and preserving your product.
Yeah, I mean, there's 450 medical properties of the cannabis plant, and this kind of explains how those properties come to life by the actual cannabinoids that they have in the product itself. So let's talk a little bit about THCA and Delta-9 THC, because a lot of folks kind of have a misconception about THCA.
Yeah, so THCA, for the most part, whenever people think cannabis, they think THC. They don't know that there's two different formats. THCA is what you would find on a freshly growing plant. And actually, if you zoomed in with a microscope, you would see the trichomes on the plant. They look like small hairs with a little bulbous top on them. And really, that's where your THCA is combined with your terpenes. So it's in a fluid state. If we were to extract at that point, we would have a THCA molecule, which in its raw form would be a crystalline substance. So if you ever see something that is a white powder claimed as THCA, if you were to ingest that, it wouldn't give you the psychoactive effect that you're looking for. You actually have to decarboxylate that THCA. I know it's a fancy word. All we're doing is removing that acidic form and moving to an actual format, Delta-9 THC, that is psychoactive and has the medical benefits that we're looking for. Delta-9 THC is actually an oil in its raw form.
Right. And it has, again, a Delta-9 has been famous to work with the CB1 and CB2 receptors, or the endocannabinoid system, which again brings a lot of the medical benefits of medical cannabis that's out there. And again, because they're dealing with the CB1 receptors in the brain and the nervous system, it really, that's where a lot of the psychoactive effects really start coming into play. But it does a great job of blocking pain.
100%. And what I want to make sure that people understand here is THCA, it's hard to put into a vaporizer format because it is a solid substance. So anything that you're vaporizing in a vape cart will be the Delta-9 THC format.
Right. That's good. That's a good point. Like I said, there's a lot of misconceptions about this. So you talked about the extraction processes. This is really important because when you're taking that flower, and what you want to do is you want to really bring out the medical efficacy of it. There's a couple of different ways to do it. Tell me some of these. I like the solventless ones.
Yeah, so
good place to start.
In general, there's 4 extraction methods that we use across the board. Our ethanol, CO2, and hydrocarbon are some of the more rudimentary type of extraction methods that we've been using. And what they're using is a solvent to actually dissolve our cannabinoids. And then we remove the solvent and leave behind our substance. Solventless extraction, although we're saying it's solventless, we're saying that because we're not actually dissolving. We're using water to agitate the plant material and break off our trichome heads so that we are not actually destroying what is in the plant. So we're breaking off these trichome heads. We use screens to remove the plant material, and then we freeze dry to remove any sort of moisture that may affect the product. And in my personal opinion, the solventless extraction creates the most strain similar effects. So if you like a flower strain, your solventless extraction process is going to retain that effect that you've had from the plant. And that's why solventless is one of the quickest growing extraction methods in the market right now.
Yeah, it's about as close to whole plant as you can get. Is that correct?
It 100% is. And the drawback there is that you're not getting some of the plant combustible material in there, right? So some people actually like the idea of combusting flower, and they don't know why, but combusting the flower in general gives you that additional material that you're smoking, and that smoke gives you more of a sedative effect as well. And that's how I describe it to a lot of people.
Right. And of course, CO2 extraction, ethanol, and hydrocarbon extraction are also other methods that you use.
At Surterra Wellness, we are using ethanol, CO2, and solventless extraction. Unfortunately, we do not have our hydrocarbon extraction up and in progress yet. It is in progress, being designed and made. We just are not using that at this time.
Coming to a product near you soon.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
It will be a product coming to you.
There you go. So let's talk about inhalation. I know that, as we mentioned earlier, when you take that 550-degree flame, you light a joint with it, that flame, as we show from the terpenes, burns off a lot of the terpenes, the cannabinoids and flavonoids. But the key with vaping is to be able to take a few, what they call, the outcome is to have something that works very quickly. One of the nice things about inhalation is it works almost immediately, and it has a duration of working between 1 to 3 hours. And it's also one of the fastest ways to get cannabis into our body. I know that I, for example, am a senior citizen. I have 7 herniated discs in my neck, which is instant pain. And when I wake up in the morning, I can sometimes wake up with a level of pain of a 7 or an 8. And so by being able to take a vape pen, taking 1 or 2, inhale 1 or 2 puffs from that, I'm able to take my pain level literally from a 7 or an 8 down to a 1. And when that happens the first time, it's you kind of look around and go, what's going on here? But even doing it like 7 years later, I'm just absolutely amazed at how fast it really helps with the pain. But really, when you do this, your dosing is to take 1 to 2 second inhales. And then when you finish doing that, they have something called the secret breath. After you've inhaled it, stop for a second and just take a secret breath, just one breath without the vape pen, just pure air, and it'll actually help both get the product into your lungs and also give you a lot better effect for that. And I also want to point out, all the vape pens that are from licensed dispensaries are safe. They've been tested twice in-house and also once outside. Isaac, tell me a little bit about the safety of your vape pens.
So all of our vape pens are very safe. They've gone through a quality control, both at the manufacturing to make sure that we are not giving something that is contaminated in, most of the vape carts are made in China, so that we're not giving you contaminated ceramic or metal. So everything is clean on the manufacturing side. We test our oils before we put it into the carts, and then the carts with the oil are also tested by the state before we sell anything. With our new vape devices that we are selling, we've actually gone an extra step of adding our combustion chamber is heated from below with a coil, so that your product never actually touches a hot coil itself. It's touching a hot ceramic, so that you do not have any of that metal taste that some people do find whenever they're vaping through a vape cart with a lower end vaporizer or atomizer. Right.
The bottom line is all the testing that you're doing, it's safe. I know that the 4 or 5 years ago, those products were not tested. They came in from China, and quite frankly, really weren't licensed. These are, and I can say, using your products, it's safe to use.
Yeah, now, safety is our number one concern for our patients across the board.
Right. Now, when we talk about concentrates, there's a number of different types. Let's jump into the different types that are out there. But before we do that, you have a pretty good analogy that you like to use to explain these.
Yeah, so I've been explaining to a lot of people what different concentrates I make and the differences between them. And what I've been telling a lot of people is I make eggs. And that sounds weird because actually I'm an extractor, but the analogy of making eggs is, how do you want your eggs, is what I tell people. Do you want scrambled eggs? Do you want over easy? Do you want a poached egg? You know, some people want an egg Benedict. And what I'm trying to portray with that analogy is that what I'm doing is really mixing different substances, your terpenes, your flavonoids, your cannabinoids, and your minors. We're mixing them in different ratios and different formats. And really you're getting an egg no matter what. It's just, how do you want to ingest your egg?
And getting rid of the eggshell.
Yeah. I mean, if we, using the analogy, if the eggshell would be your plant material, that's what we're discarding. The white being something like a terpene. Yes, we want to have that. The yolk, well, that's the bread and butter of the egg itself. That would be the THC or the cannabinoids that we're looking for.
Sure. So let's see how that plays out. So here's some examples of the different concentrates. Walk me through this a little bit.
All right, so I'm going to go with the product that we're getting ready to release on July 5th, which would be today, right? So our live rosin, I have it similar to a poached egg. Why? Because you're going to have both the yolk, but the more important part is the white, which I'm assimilating to our terpenes. So having both of those and having them not processed, where it would be more of a runnier type of egg, is what I'm using as an analogy here. So you're getting all of the good stuff. You're not getting a shell, right? And you're very lightly cooking it, is the analogy there. Our live resins and our live sugars, we don't have in Florida at this time. Again, hydrocarbon extraction coming soon, but I do need to have hydrocarbon extraction to make our live resins and our live sugars. And what I'm doing to create those products is actually running my hydrocarbon extraction very cold. I run below -40 degrees to remove the fats and the lipids that are within that constituent that we're working with. And it makes a little bit cleaner product, but it gives you a less of a robust taste. So a full flavor is lacking from those types of concentrates that use the hydrocarbon. Our live terp sauce.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The live terp sauce, we can make a couple different ways. We do solventless extraction. We're actually using our live terp sauce to add to our vapes. So when we get a live rosin vape, it's similar to our live terp sauce, just in a easy to use format.
Yeah, it's just for the actual route of administration that's there. Now, also you have a number of other products like wax, for example.
Yeah. So just going across the board here, our batters, again, that's a hydrocarbon product. We will not be, Surterra Wellness will not be bringing that to market until probably next year. Our diamonds and THCA, that's a very high-end product. Again, using the analogy, it's just strictly THC. THCA actually. So that would be just like eating straight yolks, right? It's very high in THC. We've done mechanical separation to remove all of the terpenes, and it is a product that would give you a slightly different effect based on the fact that you do not have those terpenes. We were talking about the entourage effect. When you remove those, you get a slightly different high. And I do want people to know that, because if they do try using a very high THCA product like our diamonds or THCA powder, you will get it's almost like a clear head high, but you don't get that full body locked on the couch or sedative effect, right? So moving across the board, our shatters still have some terpenes in there, but we're doing our best to remove all of our fats, our waxes in a winterization process. That's where we get the tincture that we create with ethanol very cold. And then we remove the fats and waxes so that we have a very high THCA, but also keep some of those terpenes in there. Our crumble wax, again, that's a hydrocarbon extract product that we make in our other states, but not quite to Florida yet.
Right. And I think some people choose the different concentrates because some of them are easier to actually just put into the vape pen. I know shatter is like glass. It does shatter. And I know that the batter is something that's more flexible to use.
100%. Batter, in my mind, is the ease of use is really there. You might have to clean up your tool. Shatter can get a little messy. Whenever you're breaking off a piece, it is just like you said, glass. It's not going to cut you, but it may shoot across the room. Right.
You got to be very careful with it. So. But careful with it from the standpoint you don't want to waste it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. Don't get it in your carpet.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then of course there is crumble distillates, and of course the vape cartridge.
Yeah. So crumble that I have showing up here, it's an interesting product. Is a product that we do have in Florida through Surterra Wellness right now. And again, this is one of those, I make eggs. It's pretty much the exact same product as our shatter, but what we've done is whipped it. So if you were to take an egg and whip it, you could make like a meringue, right? So we're whipping air into the product of shatter to make it more user-friendly, right? You can break this apart. It doesn't shoot across the room. It's easier to do what we consider a dab or vaporizing. So that's a very nice high-end product, has a lot of terpenes, and it has a good aroma, easy to use. Our distillate syringes that's in the middle here, distillate is a refined form of THC, delta-9 THC. And again, that's where we get that gold oil. In the Dablicator that you're seeing above, I think this is actually considered twist Spencer, but we sell it in a Dablicator as well. It's an ease of use device that you can actually get the oil out and add to any cooking products that you're dealing with, or if you just wanted to add it to a spoon to ingest directly. Again, very high THC, no terpenes at all. So you will not get that entourage effect. And then lastly here, our CDT vapes, we're using the delta-9 THC that we have extracted and is an oil, but we're adding back terpenes that we've extracted with CO2 process to give you more of that entourage and that more full-bodied effect.
Right. And I should point out on this one, you see these right over here, these little screws, these little threads here. That's what, when you referred to 510, that's the dimensions of that particular thread type.
Exactly. So 510 has become the normal way to use any vape cart. At first, there was a lot of pods vying for how we were going to go down the use of vapes. And what has shuffled out really is the 510 connection there on the end. And most people are making vape carts that will connect to any 510 battery at this time.
Sure. I think that's important to point out. And you were mentioning 510. I just thought I'd point it out for everybody what it looks like. Now, this is a very busy chart. I don't think we're really going to go through every piece of it, but there's a couple of important things to point out that comparing the different products, more importantly, things like the terpenes. Why don't you go through that very quickly?
Yeah,
Isaac?
so this is a great chart. So if you guys are taking this home, do study this because it has a lot of very useful information on it. Terpenes, that's where you're going to get your flavor. That's where you're going to get a lot of your effect. So if we're looking on this, you can see there's a few that have very low or no terpenes, your diamonds, your THC. That's where I was saying you might get a slightly different feel or effect from your high. Same thing with your shatters, your crumbles, and just raw distillate in general. You're going to get a slightly different effect opposed to things like your live concentrates where you're going to have a lot of those terpenes.
Right. And I should point out for those of you that are on the webinar, you'll actually get a copy of, you'll get an email follow-up that'll give you a link to the video, this video on YouTube that you can watch. And also you'll get a copy of the presentation in a flipbook format. So you'll be able to get a copy of this particular slide. So you'll be able to see this one. And it'll be included in the packet that you get in the email.
One other thing to point out here, Mark, is the fats, lipids, and waxes that's on that bottom row. There are a couple that show an X, right? Your live resin, your live sugar, and your shatter. Those are all products that I have winterized. When I was talking about getting it very cold, that's how we're able to remove those waxes and fats, and it makes a cleaner, more high potency product. But really, those fats and waxes, they have some sort of flavor, in my opinion, that I actually like. So it's important to know that those X's don't mean that it's bad. It just means that we're lacking some of that full-bodied flavor in those.
Sure, that's there. That's a good point. That's an excellent point. So you have a new line of products coming out today. I think this is very exciting. I know they're cannabis concentrates. Tell me about them.
Yeah, so Galileo, that's our new brand that's coming out. We wanted to come to our patients with our highest end brand that we can make. So everything that's going to be outlined in the Galileo brand through Surterra Wellness is going to be the best of the best that we can make. And that's really what we're going for. Space, it's about as high as you can get. You know, we were trying to bring that sort of enthusiasm to our products. And really what we're going to be coming out with today, July 5th, is our live bubble hash, our live rosin, and our live rosin vapes. And I know that some of the people listening to this might think, hey, well, you guys already have this. And I did want to point out that the Galileo brand, like I said, it's the best of the best. We have changed our processing for how we're making these products by using finer screens to actually remove our bubble hash, which is used to make the rest of our products. But on top of that, we've gone from using greenhouse grown material to using only high premium flower grown indoors. So that's going to make a big change in the consistency of our product. So you'll see a lighter, brighter product, but you're also going to have a higher terpene level, and it's going to be more flavorful overall.
Yeah, I think it's very important that what you've done is you're evolving. In other words, what you did was you had a great set of products, and you figured out how to make them better. And that's really what you're doing with Galileo.
That's really my job, is always striving to make a better and more useful product along any route I can, right? And that's what we're doing here. And I think that this is actually the pinnacle of what we'll be able to make. You can't get any more pure than 100%. So our THCAs are at 100%. Now we're going back and trying to make the products the best we can with the flavor and the utility of the product. That's why our live rosin vapes are great, and the terpenes in our live rosin and our live bubble hash are maximized.
Yeah. So here's for example, in your bubble hash, I'm a user of all these products. So I'm very excited to try them and compare what I'm using now, or what I was using before, excuse me, to what you have now. Tell us a little bit about your bubble hash, because I'm a big fan of hash.
Okay, so I mean, hash across the board is great. Our bubble hash and our Galileo line is the best of the best. We're going to be using indoor grown premium flower, harvesting it when it's right at the peak of terpene production, peak of cannabinoid production. And what we do is we actually flash freeze our product to preserve those terpenes that we have. And once it's flash frozen, we'll take that product, put it into a, for lack of a better word, industrial size washing machine, where you're using RO clean water. We agitate the product to break off the trichomes. So using the freezing process with ice and agitation, we're actually able to make the trichomes that are on the leaf brittle, break them off, and then we use different size screens to screen out just the trichome head. For our Galileo line, we're actually going from, we were using a 180 micron screen. We're now going through a screen down, and what we're collecting is a 90 to a 120 micron screen for our bubble hash. So Mark, what you have been getting, it was good. The new products that will be released today, if you go and buy one, you'll see that it's almost white, because we are, highly selecting these trichomes that we're bringing to you. And that
okay, Isaac, you've thrown down the gauntlet. I am going to try them all, and I will get back to you. So
all right, sounds great.
You promise to do that. Now the other is the live rosin product.
Yeah, so moving down the line, so the first thing that we do is make our bubble hash. All of our Galileo live solventless products that we're coming to a market with today are made from our bubble hash. So we start with the best bubble hash we can. And then from there, what we're actually doing is taking our bubble hash, putting it into even smaller micron screens, and adding the smallest amount of heat that we can and a lot of pressure to remove any sort of fat or wax that may be left behind in our bubble hash. So if you think about a trichome head, there's actually a cuticle that goes around that bulbous head, and we're removing those. We're smashing those heads, breaking them, releasing the terpenes, releasing the cannabinoids, and keeping that wax fatty substance behind. Right. So this will also be much blonder, a lighter color, and even higher in terpenes than our bubble hash, because we are removing some of the undesirables there.
This is great. Now the third one we're going to talk about today is your live rosin vapes, and this gets back into that little 510 connection that you can put it into a vape cartridge.
Yeah. So the way that you can think about our live rosin vape is that it is the exact same as our live rosin by itself, but we've taken the challenge of doing a dab and put it into a more convenient device for you. So starting with the same high quality bubble hash, making the same high quality live rosin that we just discussed, now we're taking this and we're using technology to preserve the terpenes, but do the decarboxylation process in a sealed container where we keep all of the active good ingredients. We decarb, which actually releases CO2. And so what you're getting in this product is the exact same as your live rosin, but we've transferred from THC-A to your Delta-9 THC and put it in an easy to use format.
Great. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to try these. Let me go back a little bit. So the real bottom line is terpenes bring out the medical efficacy of cannabis, and each of them has a different temperature setting that's here. And really with concentrates, you're able to set the vape pens to a different temperature setting to take advantage of this. This goes into all of your products fall into this category. Is that correct?
They 100% do. So our live bubble hash, what we're calling it is 90U bubble hash because we're collecting on a 90U screen. If you were to vaporize it, you may still have a little bit of debris on your banger or inside your vape device because of the outside cuticle that I was just discussing, right? Our live rosin and our live rosin vapes, those are going to be full, what the industry calls full melt. It's going to completely vaporize and there will be nothing left behind. And on that same topic, you know, if we are vaporizing our rosin or you're using a rosin vape, I highly suggest starting with the low temperatures that you have outlined here, the 325 to 350, and see what you think. Some people don't think that it gives them a big enough hit, and you might want to go to a medium heat. I would not suggest using any of the Galileo products with a high heat, just so that you do get that full entourage effect and really are able to appreciate all the time and energy we've done in preserving those terpenes.
Right. And what we might want to point out is that what we're setting is, and a lot of these vape cartridges, products that you have, like here's the products that you can pick up at Surterra, they have a low, medium, and high setting, a green, blue, and red setting. And that's what you're really talking about. And what I love is, you know, you have just a battery by itself to connect into the 510 cartridge, and it gives you those variable settings. And I think the product price was like $10. I mean, can't believe this is a great deal right here.
The vape batteries the technology is getting better and better all the time, and the price keeps going down, which is great. So getting one of these batteries, they are rechargeable. You only need one, and then you can just buy that 510 cart. So that is a great way to get started using concentrates. As you get more proficient with using concentrates and want to move to some of that THC-A, getting this Puffco Plus, right? The dab cart, you can kind of see on the left-hand side, there's actually a spoon built into it. So it releases some of the mess that comes along with doing a dab, but you can get that full-bodied flavor from a rosin directly. The Puffco Proxy, another great device, just like the Peak, adjustable settings, easy to use, easy to conceal. It's a great product as well. And what all three of these, I would suggest using for any of the Galileo products. Just know that some of that bubble hash may leave a little bit of cleaning into your Puffco Plus or your Proxy.
Sure. And I should point out the Puffco Proxy is the one that has the ability to heat from the bowl from the bottom. And so what you're doing is the product doesn't get stuck on the sides. I think that's a very important breakthrough that Puffco's made. Now it's obviously more expensive, but on the other side of the coin, the bang for the buck is there because of the quality of the product and the experience that it gives you.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where a lot of the advancement in cannabis is really coming from, is the device themselves for ease of use. And this is a perfect example.
Right. I mean, if you're going to look at concentrates as a delivery mechanism, this is an excellent product to look at. Yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but on the other side of the coin, you'll really get a lot more out of your product. And you'll probably use less product to be able to get the same effect. And I think that's important. It'll save you some money.
100%. If you're utilizing it correctly, you're going to use less. And that's really what we want. We want the experience to come through the way it should. And that's the temperature that comes along with these. I think they have it dialed in. The 3 settings that they have currently with the float battery is great. And I think with the Puffco, they may even have 4 different grades of settings now.
Yeah, the Proxy has 4, and I think the Plus has 3.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think again, it's not just, it is a little bit more expensive, but on the other side of the coin, if you're going to use it, let's say over a year, I think you'll find that it's going to pay for itself. Best way of putting it.
I fully agree.
Yeah, that's there. And you also, I love when you're using these, you got to load in the concentrates itself. You also provide some great steel tools for that. They look a little bit bigger because it's the size of the tool versus the pen. But again, the price of this is just like $20 is just ridiculous for this quality of tool.
The metal tools are great, and you can clean them off with just some isopropyl alcohol and let it evaporate away. So you're always going to need something because there is that little bit of mess. Some of the new tools that we're offering are hot knives, which is a ceramic knife as well, that kind of is a self-cleaning, and also a great price.
Right. Cool. So let's talk about, we've been talking about concentrates. Let's kind of summarize this. I think one of the real keys to using any medical cannabis product is to start low and go slow. In other words, just take a little bit, try it, see your experience with it. One of the keys, a lot of folks will say, well, what should I do? Give me a prescription. Really, you can't really prescribe medical cannabis. This is something where your body will tell you if it's working or not. And that's why if you start low and go slow by using just a little bit for a couple of days and then increasing the amount, you'll begin to feel the relief from the product. And when you begin to feel that relief, you're just going to go, wow, that's really cool. That's really beginning to work. Of course, you'll get to a point where if you increase that amount as you're going up, you'll maybe get to a point where you're not feeling as well. That's where you pass your therapeutic dosing level, just back down. And there you found your tolerance of THC. You can increase the amount of CBD that you're using, but I think dosing is really the key to this. Concentrates in really all products. Your thoughts on that, Isaac?
Yeah, Mark, I mean, that's great advice. What I would add to that is that this inhalation and using concentrates is significantly different than any sort of edible. A lot of people want to start with an edible because they feel more comfortable eating something instead of smoking. And I have a little bit of a hard time swallowing that because the delay in an edible, it may be an hour, it may be an hour and a half, depending on what you just ate in your metabolism, right? With something like a concentrate and using a vaporizer, you do have the ability to start with a very small amount, try it, wait 5 minutes is all. See where you're at. And then if you feel like you need a little bit more medicine, then take another small dab or a small puff on your vape device, right? And you don't have that long delay.
Yeah, we have a saying in the industry about edibles that about the time you think it's not working and you take another one is about the time it kicks in and starts working.
Exactly.
And you get some pretty negative experiences sometimes. Or some unexpected experiences, I should say, as well. But I think when it comes to concentrates, they work right away. Within 5 minutes, you'll know. And by the way, they're very clean and very easy to use. And I think that, again, as people, with all the new devices coming out and the different types of products, one question becomes, choose the type of concentrate that makes you feel comfortable. If shatters are something that you're not comfortable with, look at a batter. Look at the different types. There's different consistencies, like you mentioned, the different egg examples, that really make it comfortable for you to use for these particular products. But they're all great products that are out there. And I always also say, whatever you're using cannabis, think about the time of day. In my particular case with herniated discs, I have to use a product all day long, but I need to make sure that I'm timing it so that I can get the most out of my cannabis, but I don't get that heady, I don't get that high, so I can still work and do things like this seminar that's right here. That's really important.
One addition to this, Mark, when you say start low and go slow, couldn't agree more. But some people are like, well, how much is a good starting amount? I like to say something about the size of a grain of rice. And really, I think that's a very good starting point, just something very small like that. And then possibly doubling that if after 5 minutes you don't feel the effect that you're looking for.
Sure. And of course, always pay attention to the certificate of analysis to know what's in the product, the terpene profiles, as well as the cannabinoids that are in there. And that's available from Surterra Wellness. You can find those. Actually, there's a code on the side of the package that you can find those out.
Yeah. And now I think we are actually outlining what the prominent terpene is on all of our products as well. So you'll be able to know not only the cannabinoids that you're looking at, but also some of the terpenes that are involved as well.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at really taking advantage of the entourage effect, which is why you're using cannabis, that combination of cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids to really get the maximum medical efficacy, not just to be able to get the maximum relief, but also to save you money, use less of the product to be able to get the same amount of relief. I think concentrates are really the way to go. We've
I
talked a
couldn't
lot
agree
about
more.
concentrates. Give me some wrap-up ideas.
So on wrap up ideas, I think what I'm telling people is our Galileo products, again, the best of the best. Our bubble hash, I think that if you're new to cannabis, that's a great way to start because you don't need a lot of tools to use our bubble hash. You can actually roll that into a joint to increase your terpene profile, right?
Mhm.
You can sprinkle
Right.
it on a bowl if
Right.
you're still using simple tools. Now, if you're getting into more of the dabbing and using real concentrates side, that's where I would really highly suggest going towards our vapes.
Right.
They're discreet, they're easy to use, the flavor is there. It's great. As you become more of a connoisseur, that's when you might want to move into some of our actual rosins and getting your own rig where you can control to the exact degree where you're combusting. But I think overall, you should definitely go out and try the Galileo product. It is a product that I stand behind 100%. We've done a lot of research over the years to be able to bring this product or these products to market, and I'm very proud of it. So I hope you guys have the same experience I do.
Well, Isaac, thank you very much for helping us with this particular seminar, and I'm looking forward to trying them, and you will get my feedback on them, that's for sure. I want to remind everybody that this is the Medical Marijuana and Wellness Seminar Series. These are available on our YouTube channel, Marijuana Aware. Please take a look at that. And of course, weekly, we produce the webinars on Marijuana Aware on our website, and you can see not only about scheduling this particular webinar and watching it as a follow-up, but also to look at future webinars that are coming up where we take a look at different ways that medical cannabis can help you provide relief. Thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to your feedback.